Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening here from California. I'm Angelica Corral with What in the World Events, and we have a special guest. He's a master storyteller, and he's also an author of a book about storytelling. And I can't wait to hear him talk about his storytelling techniques, what got him into it. His name is Obehi Ewanfoh, and hopefully I get to visit him soon when I go to Italy. So let's hear about you, Obehi. Tell
All
me,
right.
where are you from? And of course, I already mentioned where you live at now, which is Italy. But yeah, tell me about that, please.
All right. Thank you so much, Angelica. It's a pleasure to be here. I remember the first episode that we have here when I interviewed you. And now, of course, the table is turning around. You are interviewing me. I found that really very interesting and fascinating, to say the least. Well, my name is Obehi Ewanfoh, like Angelica has said. I'm originally from Nigeria. I'm from the south of Nigeria, a state called Edo State, and I'm down there in that state in a town called Uromi. So I've been in Italy since 2004. I basically am about storytelling, and I help people to find their story so they can stand out in the competition. Of course, I believe that we'll have time to be able to touch on some of those areas today, because I believe that storytelling is actually one of the most powerful instruments that we can use because it helps us to be able to stand out in the competition and own our voice, and then, of course, use it to be able uh, um, to attract the right people. Like I sort of say quite often, if you tell your story, you get to a point that you have two lines that are stretching out from you. One is to the people who do not resonate with you, who do not like you, or do not find resonate with you. They might just go away from you, which is a good thing. But then the other line is that there are people who resonate with you because they find relevant or resonate with you, then they gravitate towards you. What that does now, that it makes the journey easier for you because you don't need to be hammering on people who do not want to hear you, know. So, yeah. So that is more like what. Of course, I do also some other things. Yeah.
I can resonate with that answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Angelica.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So, when did you first realize you wanted to be a storyteller?
Well, I don't really know if I really can say there was a time I wanted to be a storyteller, but I've always known that I wanted to be a writer. Okay, maybe they're about the same thing because up until recently, I wasn't really describing myself as a storyteller. I have written a couple of books. I wasn't calling myself a storyteller until recently when I wrote the five-part book series, The Storytelling Mastery. Now I can really say, okay, because now I teach people how to use the power of storytelling. So I cannot ignore that. But as for how long have I been seeing myself as one who play with words? It has been for a very long time. I have been a very curious person growing up. Then I remember, for example, when I was in secondary school, in high school for some, we were in the class. Then our geography teacher was asking all the students, of course, like usually what happen was, hey, what do you want to be? What do you want to be? I remember I was saying, I want to be a writer. Then, of course, then take that topic to another teacher of mine, the English teacher, because the geography master have told me there. But if you want to be a writer, you could specialize in something. So where I say I just want to be a writer, that's it. So later
Mhm.
I take the argument around and around and around. So actually, I wrote my first book called "Round My Mind" when I was still in that period because I wrote this book and I showed it to my English teacher. He just discouraged me, telling me, "Oh, you should focus on your study. Don't waste your time really writing this nonsense that didn't make any sense." But of course, I didn't care because sometimes I have this mentality that when I want to do something, I am really into it. It doesn't matter whether you believe me or not. And I don't care whether I am wrong or right. I want to see the end of it. And when I see it, then I can prove to myself. Because I don't need to prove anything to anybody. I don't need to prove it to myself that I have done it. So it has been a long time that I've been tickling with writing. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. So, how many books have you written, Obehi, and which one would you say is your favorite?
Oh, well, I've written a couple of books, more than 10, I might say now. But one of my best book I can actually say was in 2016. The book is titled Amen, the Stream Water. Now, this book had to do with storytelling, sort of, no? Because that book actually began with a storyteller. The name is Okokuje, who was living in a town, in a village called Okuje. Okay, you can already see that it's a rhyme in there. So this old man was a storyteller because all the children in Okuje will gather around him to tell their story. So every evening they usually will go there to tell their story. Of course, this is taken from me growing up as a child in Africa in my village. I've
Mhm.
had that experience going to an elderly person who will tell a story. So I can say that book has really been one of my best, but one of my bestseller too. Okay, I understand how that happened because I marketed that book in my little way. So it sort of get into the hands of many people. It was even chosen as one of the book at the university here, the city where I live, for
Uh-huh.
people to read. And it was put at the university library. And this is me. I've never gone to any university, so my book be put there for students at the university to read. It was sort of something of a special joy to me. And of course, I presented the book in different universities, particularly in northern Italy. I remember that should be maybe like a 2017, 2018. Sorry, 2000. Around then. I presented the book at the University of Padova. So I presented it with one of the best literary critic, Professor Donne Brandalize. So I could see how he was taking that very beautiful thing out of the book. I was asking myself, am I not the one who wrote this book? Look at this high professor being able to connect this book to ancient Greek and all of that. Then later, when I have to reread my book, I was seeing a lot of value in the book, but I didn't even know this when I was writing it. Then I also made the book available to an anthropologist in the city where I live. So when the woman reviewed the book, I was surprised. Like, did I really do all this? It's not in the age of AI that you could say, okay, hey, he just did it through AI. I didn't do it through AI. I didn't even know anything about AI. I wrote everything myself. But things like the five secret of the five science, the five science of the secret science, something like that. When you talk of the water, you talk of the void, you talk of the land, you talk of the fire. All of them were all in the book. They all play a role in helping the character to find his mission at the end of the day. And so, okay, I don't want to overspoil that, but what I just want to say is that I found that book to be one of my best read book. The reason is that is the book I have promoted. The other book I have not promoted them very well because I wasn't very good as a marketer, so I didn't know how to promote the book, but I know how to write it. Yeah, I can say that.
Well, it sounds like when you did write, a lot of people found value that you didn't notice was there, and when they bring it back to you, it makes you feel even more special because they found something that maybe you didn't see in it. And what a pleasant surprise. I know that must have felt like for you, right? And it seems like you were inspired by that man that would read to the children, and or that would tell his stories, and that's what seems to have inspired you. Am I right?
Yeah, though that is actually the character that I created. But of course, now this character I created it based on my experience growing
Oh.
up in Africa. Africa there is a very high and vivid evidence of storytelling that is just part of life. That story didn't really happen like I described it. I want to tell you something. When I was presenting this book at the University of Verona, so
Mm-hmm.
one student came to me. I was asking me what is going to happen to the lead character. That the lead character is Amende because the book is titled Amende, the
Mm-hmm.
name also relate to the book. So he
Mm-hmm.
was asking, what is going to happen to Amede now? Like she sort of felt a connection to the character.
Mm-hmm.
That was then I told her about, I actually invented this story. When I
Wow.
told her like that, like I reveal it to her, I sort of break the myth or the kind of connection that was between her and the character. She sort of fell back a little bit as if, okay, now I can see that it's actually an invented character. So of course, all the characters in the book, I have invented all of them. They didn't really happen that way. But everything in the book is always coming from something that I've heard or I've experienced. For example, I talked about the evil forest in the book. I talk
Mm-hmm.
about the fact that you were the child, Amede, was going into, were walking in the forest. At a point, there was a kind of a chain reaction where he marched a wood that was dry, then the wood got broken, then he fell into a very deep valley. At that deep valley, I spent some time there exploring the concept of fear, because now he found himself inside the forest, living alone there. He will live there. Then he will sort of meander around until eventually he will find that his father is actually living in that forest, but he didn't know at that time. Okay, there are a lot of things really happening there that, okay, it will take a bit of time to explain. Okay, now the basic concept of the book is that there was a difference between divine justice and human justice. His father was unjustly condemned for what he didn't do because somebody was smart enough to understand how to manipulate the law. And
Mm-hmm.
according to the law, if any person that, if you commit a crime that his father was accused of committing, you are sent to die on your own. And the way to die, they don't kill you, they send you to the evil forest where you meet your death. Only that when he was supposed to die, the gods protected him. He didn't die. And his son, growing up now, something happened. Of course, I'm just breaking the story now, that led his son into the evil forest, supposedly lost. He was supposedly going to die there, unknowingly to him as a little child that this is a very dangerous forest. There in that forest, he will later meander. Then he will find a man who will live inside the forest alone. None of them know who they are, but eventually they will know that they're actually father and son, and the love was really so warm there until eventually they will return home after a series of events. So yeah, I think everything I see in that book is part of what I have read, part of what I have seen, part of what I have heard, a part of also what I've imagined. So okay, as a writer now, you need to put everything together and then process the information, and you create a different story.
That's awesome. It sounds like a really interesting book. So, what character do you relate to most in the book, and why, Obehi?
What character do I relate with most in the book? Well, I would say the character of the searcher, the person who is finding information or who is trying to sorry dear.
Okay.
The person who is trying to navigate through the treacheries of life and try to find a meaning. Because when I look at my life, just speaking, looking at myself, I can see myself in search of something that I don't know yet, but trying to find a meaning out of it. Is what I've been doing right from when I was in Nigeria. Is what I'm doing in Italy, because when I came to Italy in 2004, I started to research about the presence of Africans here. Not about me, about them, trying to understand what is the story of these people. That is what led me to carry out this research that lasts for more than 10 years. And of course, I'm still doing it today, only that I've expanded. From there, I got the Obehi podcast. From there, we got the A Classes Media. From there, we also have our NGO, with which we are using to be able to carry out our work. So what I'll be doing then is what I'm still doing and what I will continue to do, which is search, listening to people, asking questions, because I am just fascinated listening to you. See, okay, today you are asking me questions, I'm responding, but usually I'm on the other side, just asking questions and just keeping quiet and listening. There is nothing in this world more beautiful and rewarding than just listening, just absorbing the information. I love it.
And you're really good at it too, because I remember when you were interviewing me, uh, you you really were attentive to listening. Sometimes we want to interrupt, right? And I find that in doing this, I'm more aware of doing more listening, because that's where you really get to learn about the person, right? I love that. I love it too, my friend. And I'll always appreciate you for letting me be on your podcast. And um, let's continue this. I think that there's more to find out about you. So I'm looking forward to more. So that's really interesting. So, what was the hardest thing about writing your book?
Hmm. What is the hardest thing?
Maybe it wasn't hard. Maybe it just comes to you easily.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That is what I would say. For me, writing have never been hard
Hmm.
because when somebody might say, "But how?" But that is just the way it is for me. I like to write, even to rewrite it. In that I've written for now. Okay, now okay, we're at the beginning of 2025. Now I'm going to write a series of book, but I'm not really writing a book today. I've written it, I stop it. Sometimes I will write the entire book. There are up to about 3 to 4 books I have written that are just on my computer. I remember, for example, that is actually one of my very first book in Europe is titled Between Europe and Africa. I've written this book complete, formatted it, designed the cover, and I've given the book even to an Italian friend of mine to help me translate. She helped me translate everything. The book is ready, both in Italian and in English. And I just say, okay, I'm not going to publish this book yet. Because the book sort of taught me a little bit because it talked about how I moved from Nigeria and then get to some places, the kind of challenges that I'm seeing, describing all the things. Then I said, okay, I'm not going to publish this book yet. I have this book written, and I'm going to publish this book this year because I've rewritten the entire book just from the beginning to the end. Now I have another book that I've written about. It's a kind of more like a romance, a political romance, as it were. So this book I've also written is sort of a little bit heavy. I've written it. I would write a number of occasions. Then I have my old computer. I'm alone, so I have all the time to play around with myself. So I write it. I would write it. I would write it again. So this book is still there. So to your question, what is the difficult part for me in writing books? Well, the writing is not really the most challenging part. Maybe going to figure out everything inside to see maybe everything really rhyme well to make sure the character are okay. So that one can really be the difficult part of it. But for me, imagination is not difficult for me. I'm able to imagine the character, give them things to do, and kill them if I want to kill them, put them in danger if I want to put them in danger, and then bring them back if I have to. But of course, I'm not saying I'm so much an expert in this. I just love to do it. That's what I'm saying.
I think when you love what you do, you usually do a really good job at it too, because you put yourself into it, the passion, right? And if it's something you love to do, then it's something that you do a lot. So, one of the things that I love doing is filmmaking. So, uh, if your book was adapted into a film, which would be your dream cast for the main characters? And I'd like to be an extra.
Well, it depends on which of the book you actually will pick.
Well,
Because I
pick a book that you'd like to make a film out of.
um
The first one.
actually I will pick another book because there's another book that I have not yet even rewritten. I'm going to rewrite it. I wrote this book in 2014. The book is titled, actually, it's not a book, it's a script for a film, for a feature film, because by then I've done a film making course with New York Film School Direct online. So after that, because anytime I do a course, I want to prove myself that I know what I'm doing. So I did this course with them, then I write a script. I titled the film The Dagger Man. In that the film is a kind of, it's an intelligence person who want to be on his own, but people just want to tempt him and make him suffer. And he's a good person, but when it turned very bad, it really become very bad. So maybe I could like to play that character. So if you were looking for which of the script could we add, I would just give you that script to act out, to turn into a film. And I would like to cast in that.
So you'd be the main character. That is awesome because when we write our films, my sister and I, we usually star in it too.
That's lovely.
Because
That's lovely.
that's what makes it more fun, right? Um,
Absolutely.
and you know what? I just got an idea. Maybe one of these days we could work on a film and,
Absolutely.
together, you in Italy and me here in California. We could come up with a way to. I have an idea that I'm going to bring to you later, and I think that it would be really fun because this story about another culture going into another country also happens here in California because there's a lot of immigrants here in California from Mexico, right? So I could tell the Mexico part and you could tell the African part. And then we
That would
could
be
that'd be kind of cool, right?
that would be lovely. That would be lovely.
Let's
Eh,
do
eh,
it, Obehi.
When we do this, Angelica, let's do this. In fact, this year, 2025, I've told to some of my close friends because every time at the beginning of every year, I set a target for myself. In this year, I'm going to do a lot of writing. And probably I'm going to dabble into an area that I'm not usually into, which is writing a kind of war series. I'm going to do it this year. Also because my son is really beginning to get fascinated about superhero film. So I'm going to transform some of our stories coming from our culture. I will transform them into script, into sort of novel, but maybe some of this novel, because the way I'm going to write it, because I'm going to use a kind of, because now I know a bit more about storytelling, how to structure it and all of that. I'm going to make it more lively, put a lot of life into it, so that when you read the story, it will look as if you are watching the film. That will become easier for us to translate into a film if we eventually be, because now they are sort of script that are going to be written, maybe futuristic story. Uh, okay, they are usually not the type of story that I write, but I would like to do it this year because I've already started experimenting on it.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it. I have a similar one that I wrote, and I actually dressed up as a superhero at the Comic-Con. But but we'll talk about that another time. This is your time, my friend. But I'm excited because I in this conversation, this is the beauty of having conversations because then we could see how we can help each other, right?
Yeah,
And have fun. Because for me, when we help each other, we grow and we have more fun.
absolutely,
So
absolutely.
I'm excited. I can't wait to hear your story and your son into superheroes. So, speaking about writing, what is your writing process like? Do you
Mm.
outline at the beginning what the story's going to be like, or is it more of a spontaneous thing?
Mm. All right, I would say that in the beginning, I just let it flow in the sense that I don't have the beginning from the end. I just start writing, I just let it flow, flow, flow. But as I matured over the years, I don't write my script the way I write my courses, because I have courses. I have over 21,000 students on Udemy, for example, and I have
Uh-huh.
also in other places. So when I write my course, I have the beginning from the end. I know everything that is going to happen. Therefore, I have even the table of content before I start to write, so that when I'm writing, I'm just filling in the gap. So it
Uh-huh.
becomes very easy for me because now and I know everything about it. So I just need to fill in the gap. Then it becomes easy to write, whether it is a book or it's a course. So that is more like how I do. Of course, when you write it now, they are going to review it, rewrite it again, and rewrite it again. But of course, with the use of AI today, it has become much easier to do the same work, but do it faster. Okay, somebody might hear that and say, okay, oh, AI can write for you. No, AI cannot write for you. AI doesn't know you. You are the one that need to use AI like the pen, like the computer.
Mhm.
AI is like your pen. It's like a computer. You see, in the olden days, our ancestors will take the feather to write a book. They will dip the feather in an ink to write A. They will literally draw A and draw B. That was how they wrote their books. Then there
Yes.
was a time that you could type it in typewriter. You see, the rate at which you can write this one, the rate at which you can use your feather to write, it's not the same. It doesn't mean the typewriter now write for you. No, you are using the typewriter as a tool. Now the computer came, it's the same. The AI came, it's the same. You cannot say, AI, take the book from my head and put it down. No, you are joking. If you are a poor writer, if you have a poor imagination, AI will help you become a better poor.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. I love it. It's a tool. Um, Otherwise it's empty, right? We got to put what our idea is, and then we kind of craft it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Have to. Otherwise, you don't garbage in, you garbage out.
Hmm. So you've written so many books. What do you hope readers take away from your books that you've written?
Hmm. Well, I hope they find me inside the book, in the sense that they find the message that I'm trying to communicate to them. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I was talking with one of my guests. I was saying, somebody could say, well, you have written this book that you don't become one of the famous person in writing, so you haven't been successful in it. Well, I say, well, you don't even know what is my target. My target is not to become the most famous. If I become the most famous, that is a good thing. I'm not rejecting that, but I said I wanted to do this. Have I done it? I've done it, so I'm successful. Either I set a target for myself, I have achieved it, that is success. Now, as I know how to do that, I can learn how to improve on it going further. So, what do I want my my reader to get? You see, every book have a specific objective.
Okay.
I want to communicate information to my reader. Okay, there was some time in the beginning, I used to write a lot of fiction writing, a lot of story that you would invent and all of that. Then at a point, I jump into non-fiction writing, where I would talk about a thematic topic. Like, for example, I wrote a book that I called "Under Development in Africa, My Hands Are Clean." This was sort of a research. Again, I didn't publicize this book a lot, but some people that have read it have told me this book is really very interesting. It's a political book, sort of, because it talk about politics, talk about African issue, talk about our responsibility, talk about a little bit of everything. But this is a research. This is not an imagination of mine. Okay, even though I do put my thought also in it. Then I've written a book like The Crisis of Identity, How to Find Your Life Purpose in 7 Days. All these, the way that they are written are different from maybe when I write a fictional story. Like, for example, my very first book is ready now. I published it in 2004. So I've rewritten the book over time. It's now ready, but if you read the book, it's going to completely be different because I've changed everything in it. So the way this book is written is different from the way I will write a non-fiction story, because now you see a character that I actually invented, but I will make you fall in love with the character because I'm going to make it pass through a lot of things so that you will see that it's a human being.
Nice. Nice. So you have a character that goes through a lot of things, and you want people to take something out of those experiences that character is going through.
Yeah, yeah. Uh,
That is awesome.
Yeah, particularly in this new series of writing that I want to go into this year, I think it is important, because what I've learned is that as a writer, you need to go on a journey with your readers. And when you are in this journey, you need to make them feel something. If they come out the same way they enter, you haven't been successful in that journey so far. But if you transform them, something that happened now, is that you are going to make them scared at a point. You're going to make them feel happy. As you need to give them something to hold. This must happen in the course of this journey because they follow you. I remember because I used to like poetry a lot. I remember when I was reading, not just the reading of the poetry, but in the analysis of the poetry, you could almost see the poet talking to you, almost feel the way the poet is putting the hand on the paper, writing it. All these are communicated in between the lines, which is to say that when you are reading the work of a writer, there is almost a kind of a connection between you and the writer. And if this is happening, then this is successful writing.
Yes. Yes. That is awesome. So it seems I'm gonna ask you this question, but it seems like you wouldn't have this problem. Have you ever faced having writer's block? And if
Mm.
so, how'd you overcome it? It seems like it just comes too easy for you.
Well, maybe what I know that I do have sometimes is that maybe when I've overexploit my head, that maybe the idea become fuzzy. That it does, of course, but I don't know whether can call it a writer's block, because if I'm doing any task, it get to a point that the economics we call diminishing return. Huh? If you go on, you are just suffering. Instead, what you need to do is to go back or suspend that, do something else. It does happen to me in my writing too. I've written, or I've read. Usually, writing is about reading, because you just put the material there, you go there and start correcting it, and writing, and all of that. Then you get to a point that you don't want to continue because it becomes almost like boring to you, or almost like the idea is not flowing anymore. Just like every other task, you need to suspend it. What I would do, I could go have a walk, but usually for me, I'm not lack of things to do. I just switch task. I move to something else because I do video, I do photography, I do all sort of things. I do website design. If I switch from a task to another task, it's like I'm just fresh. But when I forgot that I was writing and I come back to it again, it's like I've never written before. So everything is fresh again. So that is how we describe my old writer's block and how I overcome it.
Whew. I'm sorry, I got this. Sounds
Sorry,
like I'm
bless
coming
you.
down with the cold.
Bless you.
Oh my goodness, I'm gonna have to edit that out. Obehi. So, how do you develop your characters
Mm.
and the things that they
I,
go
I,
through throughout the story?
I think sometimes they are spontaneous, no? In that, if you know, okay, now I'm not talking of maybe when you write a non-fiction, character story now. In most of my story that I've written, particularly those that like Amende or like the Still Owe Me Goodbye, I never really like define that story like I said before, no, where you just have it written from beginning to the end, no, like a course. I do that when I'm writing uh, a non-fiction writing, like a thematic topic. Like, for example, what is the best way to migrate from Africa to Europe, for example, where I would just say, okay, this, then I could fill in the gap. But when you are writing a fiction writing now, when you are inventing the story, I think a lot of imagination need to happen. That okay, you know what you want to communicate. Even this know is something that can change all the time because what you know as you begin to write, it begin to change. It become almost very malleable. So you change along the way. Maybe the message you want to communicate in the beginning, in the initial stage, might not necessarily be the message that come out at the end of the day because otherwise you are not allowing your imagination to flow. You need to allow the information to flow. Okay, there is a way that this is perceived. Looking at reality from African perspective, that we are tapping into information. When you start to write, you say, "I need this information." You tap into it; they are flowing to you. They are flowing to you. If at the end of the writing, everything that you write is everything you know in the beginning of the writing, nothing has
Mhm.
happened. There is no transformation. Because you want your audience to be transformed, but you need to be transformed first. In that, as you are writing the story, you are transforming, you are getting new idea. it's not all the idea in the book that you know in the beginning. You know you want to get there, but you haven't seen everything. A good way to see this is you are going from a city to another city. You
Yeah.
haven't experienced everything on the way yet. As you are in the train or in the car or in a flight or in a bicycle or on your legs, as you are moving, everything is just passing you by. You see the trees, you see the valley, you see the mountain, you see the people, you see the building. Everything
Uh-huh.
is just passing you by like this. This is what you are doing. You are reporting everything that you are seeing. You cannot see that in the house before you embark on the journey and
Uh-huh.
experience everything. So this is why I think that when you are writing a fiction writing, you need to allow yourself to experience it, to transform, and to report what have happened, so that your writer can also experience the same transformation.
I love it. And I love the way that you explain it. It puts a person there at that time. And then that way they could feel they're in it. Right. So I love the way that you explain it. You ah, so many jewels here, my friend. So how about research? What role does research play when you're writing your books?
Hmm. Yeah, of course, a lot of role of particularly when you are writing a non-fiction writing, when you are writing thematic story, because I've done both. If I'm writing a story about, say, let me remember now. Okay, I was writing the story about the first Africans in Verona, called "The Journey Africans to Verona." I
Uh-huh.
didn't have all the information. I could not possibly imagine the information. So I have to go and literally talk to people, interview them one after the other. When I finish this interview, that will point me to another person, because I will ask, do you know somebody else who I can also talk to? They will point me to Mr. B. When I finish to interview Mr. B, Mr. B will point me to Mr. C, and on and on and on. Then I gather all this information and transcribe them, and then get them together, and then write a book based on the information. That is the period of research that I'm gathering the data to be able to write the information. But if I were writing a fiction writing, I will still do gather information, but I will gather less, in the sense that I'm going to do a lot of imagination now, because the character I want to talk about, I haven't seen the character. The character hasn't existed before. I'm bringing it to life. I am tapping into the unseen, the invisible, to bring this character, of course, using the element that is available here to create it. Sometimes I use the element that is not even there yet to create the story. And when we see, we say, that is, I like it. I like it. But I think research is far more crucial in a non-fiction writing that is fiction writing. But of course, in both side of writing, you need research so that at least you know what you are talking about, because you are going to eventually talk about date and time. Although in my book I made the stream water, I don't know how I did this, but I intentionally avoid things that help you locate the time. So when the anthropologist in Verona was reviewing the book, he said, I did it so beautifully well that I made the story timeless. That when you read the book, you hardly find something that tell you that it was in this particular time frame. Because how do you know time frame? Because you make reference to things like car, telephone. Because when you start talking of telephone, it is something that is talking about this time. Because telephone didn't exist only a few years ago, no? We start
Mhm.
talking of internet. Okay, we are talking of just now AI only a few years ago, because we're not talking about AI 50 years ago or 20 years ago. Maybe some
Mhm.
expert were talking about it, but the general public didn't know about AI. For me, it was recent for me, So when you start making reference to things like this, the road, maybe certain element of the road, you let the people understand how to place the story. But in that made it was very natural that you didn't see anything that tell you that it was this particular time. So you can't find anything. Yeah.
That's interesting. I've never, I've never thought about it that way, where you make it timeless. So that's a exciting way to write a book. It's a different way of looking at it, and I love your different aspects of writing, Obehi. You're awesome, my
Thank you.
friend.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. So, do you ever get to read reviews of your books, and how does it impact your writing?
Hmm. Of course, review is very good. Okay, like I said again, I've never been a good marketer. Um, that is why I don't have a lot of sales, but I do have sales. No, so I do have a lot of review. If you go to my website, the title, sorry, the address should be obehi book review. You will see different review there. I didn't collect a lot of them. There were actually a lot on our Amazon page, or the Amazon decided to suspend me there, so I don't have all. I lost all the review there. But there are review coming, which are sort of show what the people are feeling after reading the books. So of course, compared to what I have saved that is available there, that are actually a lot that I didn't gather at the time. Yeah.
That
Okay.
is
What do I
awesome.
feel? What do I feel
Mhm.
about the review? Of course, it let me know what the people are feeling, who sort of help me calibrate, because whether you like it or not, as a writer, you should care about what your audience are feeling, because you are writing also for them. I understand that you might
Mhm.
be writing for yourself sometime, but you are writing also for the people, because if the people are not be carried along with you, then there is no need. There is no need almost, no?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Oh, that's a good way to gauge what everybody's thinking and feeling,
Yeah.
right? The reviews. And you got that great review about something that you didn't realize was in your book that also must have been really amazing. So, who is your ideal reader, and how do you envision them engaging with your work?
Okay, this will depend on what type of work, because my work is a little bit large in the type of audience that I cover, but
Mm,
not so large too. But my primary audience are African diaspora and also people of African descent. But it doesn't mean that everybody that I write must resonate with them. Um, so when I pick a topic, I also pick the readers. Of course, I didn't understand it at the beginning of it, but later I understand it. No, in that if okay, there are a couple of books that I've written. I just said that I'm going to publish this year. No, for example, I wrote a book about about tourism. This book about tourism is about the first time tourists that are coming to the city of Verona. I'm literally taking them around to help them understand how to navigate the city of Verona, what to find. So that book, anybody can read it, but that book is specifically written for first-time visitors to the city of Verona.
nice,
Okay.
nice.
Now, I've written also other books. Now, in the five-part book series, anybody can benefit from that book, but it's specifically targeted at African diaspora entrepreneurs who want to leverage the power of storytelling in what they are doing or for their personal life. Of course, it doesn't mean that other people do not benefit from it, but this is the target audience that I'm writing this particular book for.
Hmm.
Even though I'm the one who have written that book and also this book, you can see that the audience are not the same. So that is why I say it depends on what is the book, what is the book for. That is how I
Yes,
determine who is the audience. Yeah.
yes, you've written so many. You have a plethora of different books, so I get it. I needed to be more specific with your question on your ideal reader. It's like ideal reader for what book, right?
But anyway, the question is fine. At least it helps us to also clarify those points. No.
Thank you. I love it. I love it. So, are there any other books or projects you're currently working on? We'll be working one on soon.
Definitely, definitely, definitely. No, this year I say I already told some friends of mine, let's collaborate more on writing because I tend to write more this year. So I have like about 3 to 4 books that are already ready that I need to publish. I just need to review them where then get them published. Then I need to go. I tend to write a book. This is because my son is beginning to fall in love with a superhero. So I probably might go into that genre for some time, maybe write a couple of books. Because there is this hero from my town. Is a very important personality that I came to read about. I am saying that I should have read about him while I was young because I'm coming from Uromi. So there is this man called Agba Noje. He was the second king of Uromi. He played such an important role in the life of Uromi and his some people that he was made the god of war. But how come I didn't know anything about him? I grew up in the town. I grew up here to 24 years old before I left. I never know that he was even the second king of Uromi, or this actually we call the Onoji. The second Onoji of Uromi. How come nobody told me about that?
Hmm.
So I said that I am going to write a book in line with this. Sort of, it's probably not going to be a research book, but I'm going to create a superhero story around this line. So that is in the board in the back burner. Then I also have another book that I've been writing. It had to do with the Life and Legacy series because in Net Crisis Media, we have a series that we call Life and Legacy, where we basically celebrate the heroes in our path, those who have created the road that we are now traveling. Literally, we are standing on the shoulder of the giant so we can see ahead of us. Those giants, we need to write about them. So there was this man in my village. His name is Isojomo. He was the one that brought water, electricity, and also good road to my village. I knew him. I drank from the water. I used the light. So I said, as a minimum, I didn't see any book to read about him. Maybe there are, but I didn't see anyone. So I can write about him. So I
Yeah.
did a small documentary about him a few years ago. Then I started to put the book together. I have not finished to write it, but I will finish it this year too. So of course there are other book project that I'm going to do this year. This year is a book time, so I'm going to write a lot of book this year. Yeah, so these are some of the things that we have in the backbone. Some of them I already go far ahead. Some of them I'm just barely starting to put them together. Yeah,
And I love it because you're bringing a story to people that don't know about these heroes, these unsung heroes, and they're getting known for the heroes that they are in your
absolutely.
culture. And I love it that it's your culture that you're talking about because I love learning about different cultures and you're bringing it to other people so that they could learn about your culture and the beautiful things that the people in your culture have done and are doing. So,
Yep, absolutely. And also this year, talking about culture, I'm going to be spending a lot of time on cultural tourism because I've been in the tourism sector for more than 10, 12 years. So
mhm.
this year, I'm going to write a lot of articles on cultural tourism because now we have a project from our NGO to promote a diaspora cultural tourism where we'll be able to organize event, bring in sort of cross connect the people of African descent on using cultural tourism to connect among ourselves and to share our story. So I'm going to be writing also a lot about that as article. Perhaps I might also write a book about it, maybe towards the ending of the year or maybe next year. I don't know, but in terms of article writing, I'm going to write a lot about cultural tourism. So I'm going to spend a lot of time there.
Very nice. I love it. So, what advice would you give to an aspiring author who's looking to publish their first book?
To start, the best advice is to start. Even if you don't, the first thing is that you want to do it, you really love to do it, then start. Even if you don't know how to do it yet, start. Now, when you start, then you have something in your hands to know that you didn't even do it right. Because if you don't do it, you don't even know what is doing it right or doing it wrong. If
Hmm.
it's wrong, do it wrong. Then pick the wrong one and show it to people. Say, this is what I've done. They will tell you that it is wrong. They ask them, how can I do it right? Of course, I'm saying as the expert, those who know how to do it. But if you only have it in your head that one day I will be an author, you will die as one day I will be an author. You will never be an author because you want to become better before you start. It doesn't work like that. Start
Yeah.
where you are, then ask for help because you already started, no? That is
Yes.
that is my advice.
So that is awesome. And also get your books about the
Oh.
storytelling. Right? So you need to let them know about your website, so that they could go to your website and find your book, right?
Thank you so much, Angelica. Well, for those who are interested in learning about my book, all my books are available in Obehi website, obehi But you can also visit our project page, which is aclasses.org. There you will be able to get the free chapter from the storytelling series. You don't need to pay anything for it. Just put your email. We will send it to you so that you read, so that you feel how it is to read my work. Because there is no guarantee that you are going to like it. But in case you like it, then you can then get the first book, and the second book, and maybe the third book. I remember there was a time we were doing a presentation on LinkedIn. Somebody said, I like to read it. He just went to Amazon and he get all 5 books to read. You see, so it it is important for us to dive into this conversation. Get a copy of the book and read. It's available on obehi also on A Classes Media, which is aclasses.org. Or you can simply send me a DM. I will send the book to you. If you want to patronize, why not get a copy for yourself and read? It doesn't cost that much. If you come to A Classes Media, you see that it costs you about $5, or sometimes we do a promotion, it costs you $3 to get the book. You don't want to tell me that $3 is too much to pay for a book, no? So if you want to see more of it, support us so that we'll be writing more for you. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for this wonderful interview. I look forward to connecting with you because I want to collaborate with you. And any last words to our audience for today?
Oh, thank you so much for that, Angelica. I really appreciate the time and the opportunity to be here. What I can tell our audience is that it is important to own our story, to own our experiences in life. That is actually the gospel that we are preaching. In that you don't want to just be another number, another cat, another dog, another human being just walking the surface of the earth. No, you need to own your experiences, reshape it, let the people know who you are and why you are doing what you are doing. By the time you do that, you never need to compete with anybody. You never need to compete with anybody because nobody is like you. Nobody have the same specimen that you have. You are unique. You are a unicorn. But you must own your story because if you don't own your story, you are just another Joe in the corner. So own your story and use it to stand out in the seal of the internet. That is how I want to leave the conversation. So thank you so much. It's been a pleasure here.
Thank you. I loved it. I loved my time with you, Obehi. It was awesome. And thank you
Thank you, sis.
everybody who came to um to listen to our dear friend here, and for those who watch the replay in the future. So with that, we'll bid each other goodbye. Love you.
Thank you so much, sister. Thank you. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful time.
Okay, you too, my friend.
Bye bye.